several reasons why we think content on your site should be higher priority of you using your marketing resources than trying to get mentions on other sites. I just have the LLM summarize this and I do all of this stuff, and all of this is automated by Gen AI, and I have this whole Gen AI automation to like produce content. And then they're like, but you need to put like these bullet point summaries because AI can't like understand language. Like what's the logic? I think I choose the one on our site every time because it gives us the room to be able to discuss the nuances of who Grow and Convert is best for, what problems we solved.
So a number of things have been happening over the last few months in regard to AI. Specifically, in a lot of our client calls, there's been random questions coming up. We've had people asking, should I do LM.txt on blog posts, or should I focus on Reddit? And there's just a lot of questions on producing different types of content for AI. And then on top of that, Davish and I have been building Traqer. And Traqer is our own AI rank tracking tool. And as we've set up a number of client accounts in there, we just started noticing trends in terms of what's working to show up in each of the different platforms: ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google AI overviews. And it's just forced us to really stop and think and reflect on what's been working to get clients results from an AI perspective. And so we wanted to record this video going through our thoughts on a new framework that we've developed called Prioritized GEO. And it's essentially a pyramid that organizes the framework into most important to least important things that we think drive AI results. Most important being owned content, and then moving up is to offsite mentions, so like brand mentions and getting exposure on other sites. And then the last thing, on-site tactics. And so, yeah, we just kind of wanted to record this video walking through our thinking on this, what led to this, and yeah, hopefully answer a lot of questions that people are having on AI.
Another thing worth mentioning of why this framework matters is that there's just so much different advice that we keep hearing. Both we hear it online and then we hear it in our clients' questions. And it seemed to us that the kind of things tactics that people are talking about seem to be overwhelmingly in this third bucket of on-site tactics, of things like, and we call it like content tweaks inside the pyramid. It's things like, oh, should you change your subheadings on your content to questions because AI likes question and answer format? Should you add key takeaways to the top of your blog posts? All of our content, like, guys, let's add key takeaways to that because I read or heard that AI likes that and it helps it digest this. And fundamentally, if we think about how does this work, which we sat down and be like, hold on, is that important? Like, what is the tier of what's more important? And that's why we call this resulting framework that we're going to walk through Prioritized GEO, because the issue is one of priority where clients are just like, I heard this other person's doing this. Like, what should we do? And so to understand what's more important, you need to first think through like, well, how does this work? And is like adding bullet point summaries of your content to like help AI like understand it better, is that really the most important thing you can do? So let's walk through that. Thing number one is to understand kind of the mechanism by which you can influence LLM results. In short, what you can do for LLM results, the way to influence it is actually through traditional SEO. And hear out why. LLMs use two things to decide what to say in its output when a user gives it a prompt. Number one is its training data, and number two is the SEO search result. And even then, let me be more specific. Instead of LLM, we'll call this ChatGPT. And then Claude, Gemini, and all are included. But just as an aside, when you look at your traffic, it's like Google search overwhelmingly, and then a distant second ChatGPT, and then an even more distant third like Perplexity, and then everything else is like a trickle. So really what we should be talking about is like Google AI overview, ChatGPT, and then maybe Perplexity as another one. So in ChatGPT, it's a combination of training data and Google search. The other two, Google AI Overview and Perplexity, are literally search summarizers. So like they're heavily on just like what is showing up in the search. It's literally called AI Overview. And we have in our accompanying article, Prioritized GEO, that we will link to in the notes of this episode. We have like links to the actual and screenshots of something from Google and something from Perplexity's help docs saying that. So if you say, look, there's two things. There's the training data and there's LLM supplementing the training data with search to decide what to say. The thing that you can influence is the search side. Training data, like that's a long-term game. You need to show up, but you don't know how often they update that stuff. It's just like overall, all of your marketing helps you just be relevant in all discussions that they might ingest when they retrain their models. Okay, so you leave training and data aside. It's through traditional SEO. It's the bottom two categories of our pyramid that help you expose your brand name in relation to your industry or topic or product category to LLMs. So tier one at the bottom is content on your site that ranks on Google for terms that people might enter. Then tier two is having your site
What would
show
you
up.
say to the pushback that content on other sites is more important?
Yeah. So we'll get to that. So then tier two is then having your brand mentioned on other sites that it might show up. So those two are kind of, if you agree with the logic so far, those are kind of like number one important thing is expose your brand to LLM is more important than helping your LLM digest your content. So then you ask, well, then why do you have content on your site as number one below and as foundational more than your brand mention on other sites?
Yeah, and I say that just because from what I see online on LinkedIn or Twitter, most people would say with AI, the prioritization has switched from content to from your site to content on other
Yeah.
sites. That's going to be way more important.
That does seem to be the narrative. I agree with you that also what I'm seeing in my feed is like kind of that as this underlying narrative is everyone's like, it's different now. It's different. So several reasons why we think content on your site is should be higher priority of you using your marketing resources than trying to get mentions on other sites. Number one, and this is kind of a big one, and you should give your opinion because it touches on something that you wrote a while back called like how AI is going to change search, is that you have the space when you write like a long form blog article on your site, you have as much space as you want to then sell and position your product features, talk about their benefits, talk about what customers it's good for, and your differentiators versus competitors. You have way more room because it's on your site. You can do whatever you want there to do that on your site. Then if you are pitching some list post to some industry site that is ranking for some term you want to rank for, and you say, hey, can you mention us? You get like maybe a paragraph. Sometimes you get like a mention. If you're doing some Reddit strategy and you have your name, like you get some commenter you hire from some, overseas that like types your name in, you have like a sentence. Why does that matter? Because as you wrote in your post, the LLMs now are your first salesperson. Because in their output, the user is going to be like, hey, I'm looking for a content marketing agency. And you're looking for the LLM to be like, grow and convert. And it's going to give a blurb of like why. And so it needs to have ingested and know your positioning to give that blurb. But the second thing is it also needs to know that for the pain points that it knows of that user. And in ChatGPT's case, it knows a hell of a lot because it has all your past chat history. So it knows everything about the user. It knows their business probably, the problems they're running into right now, the budget they kind of have. It needs to know all of that and think, this agency Grow and Convert, we're going to recommend them because all of the nuances of their pain points that I know in detail, Grow and Convert sort of like answers those pain points and is perfect for them. The only way it can understand that level of detail is for you to have written it and for the LLM to have read that. And so you need the foundation of that. That foundation of that has to be on your site because other people are not going to give you the room to talk about this. And so if you had to choose A or B, like you can rank for, in our case, to continue my analogy, best content marketing agency, and you can rank for it on Google. So then, OpenAI, Google AIO, Perplexity are going to see it when they're searching on Google to supplement their answer. You can do it with your site with like a long blog post on growandconvert.com, or you can do it with like a mention on some other page. I think I choose the one on our site every time because it gives us the room to be able to discuss the nuances of who Grow and Convert is best for, what problems we solve. You don't have that kind of room on an offsite mention.
To build on that, I just think the hub of your content strategy lives on your site. Just like in
Yeah.
traditional SEO, it's like you can do guest posts and that can help you rank better because you can get backlinks from those guest posts, or maybe the other site that you're guest posting on has a different audience that can drive awareness back to your brand. But again, the majority of the information about your business, the way you're positioned, lives on your site, and you can do other things to just help drive visibility. And I think it's the same thing here, where you need to write about your business, the way you do things on your own site, and then you can go get brand mentions, you can do guest posts, you can do PR and layer that on top. But if you don't have your business or your product or your services positioned in the right way on your site, even if you're mentioned in a bunch of different places, it might not position you in the way that you want, because that foundation of your marketing strategy is not on your site in that case.
Yeah, and look, we probably should write a separate article on just this, but or maybe that is kind of a good chunk of the article you wrote on how AI search is changing. But it's like, because LLMs summarize, there's this second task now that becomes important. Is it's not enough to just be mentioned. Previously in regular SEO, it was like if you got that top link, blue link, it was like great, now they're on your site. But now it's like you have this machine that's selling on your behalf. So your brand positioning, and then not just positioning, it's like whether or not you've messaged articulately enough your positioning, it becomes really important because you have this other thing that's not your employee. It's like an LLM summarizing, selling on your behalf. Okay, so that's only a reason number one why we think own content is foundational beyond outside. Number two, it kills two birds with one stone. And it's something you and I have been talking about a lot recently, which is everyone's acting as though SEO doesn't exist anymore and is dead, quote unquote. But you just like look at our client results. Right before we sat down to record this, I was on a client call. Organic traffic is still increasing. They have hundreds of pieces of content. We've been working with them for 4 or 5 years. So like Google search is still the predominant search engine. And we see that in like the GA data. There are brands posting online, marketers posting online about 30 to 40% decreases. This is probably a separate video, so I don't want to go too deep into this, but in short, we think that's because if you have a bunch of top of funnel content, that stuff is moving to AI. Because when people are just asking general how to, they'll just ask ChatGPT. But for this bottom of funnel topics and content, when people are looking for products and services, we're still seeing it convert well. So if you do that on your own site, you just have a better conversion asset than like getting a mention on some other site. They land on your site, they're reading your thing, you have CTAs, so you still get SEO benefits. Reason number three, algorithm update risk. Reddit was like the thing, it felt like, through the summer of 2025. Everyone's like, you gotta do Reddit. They like release these like charts of be like most cited sources from ChatGPT, and like Reddit is number one, Wikipedia. And then in the last couple weeks, there's been this new narrative of like, you guys, Reddit is dropped off the citation map. I'm not seeing Reddit as a cited thing. And then there's this whole discussion of like, we think that OpenAI is still using Reddit, but they're just not citing it as a citation and all of this. But the point is, if you base your GEO or AI search strategy heavily on getting mentions on one platform or two platforms like Reddit, like Wikipedia, and those like algorithms get updated to be like, actually, we don't want to prioritize Reddit so much, you're kind of screwed.
Another thing I'll say on that is when I look at ChatGPT sources or citations, it's usually pulling something like 10 to 20 plus citations to give an answer for any given query. It's not like Perplexity and AI overviews where there's maybe like 4 to 7 citations. And so if you're spending all this time on Reddit and Reddit is only one small part of the citation and there's a bunch of other articles it's pulling from, it might not even have the full effect that you think it's going to have. And again, I think from what I've seen so far looking at our client data in Traqer, Reddit is only really being pulled as a source for ChatGPT, not as much for Perplexity and AI overviews. And so again, with Reddit, you're only focusing on one of the platforms. And from what we're seeing, ChatGPT is the biggest in terms of traffic share and maybe conversions out of Perplexity and some of the other LLMs. But from what we're seeing, AI overviews is still an overwhelming majority of traffic and conversions.
Yeah, aka normal Google search.
Exactly. So you're not seeing it show up as a separate line item in analytics like ChatGPT. You're seeing ChatGPT be broken out because it's a separate LLM sending referral traffic. But AI overviews, what you're probably seeing is maybe traffic having a slight decline, but you're seeing branded searches or branded conversions or direct conversions increase a little bit. And we think that's largely due to AI overviews taking up a lot more rankings than it used to. So a year ago, if you ranked in the top 3 positions, you would rank with your article and people would click into your article. Now what's happening is if you rank in the top 3 spots, you might just be a source in AI overviews and your brand name might be mentioned and people are still finding you. And
Which is a win, by the way. That's a huge AI search win.
it's a huge win. And parts of the piece that you wrote are being included in the AI overview, but people are going directly to your site rather than clicking in. And so it looks like SEO isn't working as well, but you're still showing up at the top. Just from an attribution perspective, it's not the same as it used to be. So it looks like organic traffic is going down and maybe some of your other sources of traffic conversions are going up, but it's really just a function of AI and the SERPs.
Okay, so let me recap our answer to your question of why did you guys put own content higher than offsite brand mentions if they both work by the same mechanism of getting you on Google first and then the LLMs discovering. Number one, it gives you the space to set your narrative and talk about the details that you need for AI to know to recommend you and to position you well. Number two, it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. It lets you rank on regular SEO and gets that traffic to you, which is still working. Number 3, less algorithm update risk. OpenAI could decide on a whim, and it seems like they kind of have, of saying, you know what, we're going to devalue Reddit now as a citation, and then there goes your Reddit strategy. Whereas they're not going to do that for all sites on the internet, including yours. Like your site's not big enough to do that. And then the last thing that I actually wrote into this article that I think worth mentioning in this episode too is like execution. It's called Prioritized GEO. What we're trying to do is help brands that are like, what should I do first? And what I said is like, operational execution matters. Like most companies we talk to know how to produce a blog post. Like you can do that in a day, in a week. This month you could produce blog posts for your like 3 main, bottom of funnel category keywords, to use grow and convert speak. How are you going to do a digital PR strategy? You got to find an agency? Who? Like you just don't have that kind of habit, training, experience. And so that's the last reason. So those are the reasons we think that's the foundation. Then you can do offsite mentions, and that's tier 2, and it still works. Now the number one thing is, how do you do it? So we've talked about like, okay, offsite mentions, and okay, so we have our foundation of content, or maybe someone listening is like, we already have done that. We already have like our bottom of funnel, content. We're ranking for these key terms, so we should be showing up with our own stuff. But now we want to supplement that with these offsite mentions to help GEO. Great. That's a responsible and logical and pragmatic way to do it. So again, what we've seen is these charts that are like, here are the top cited domains by AI. And what they're doing is they usually are selecting a random set of like 3,000 prompts and then just like counting what sites are cited the most. The key is, what are those prompts? They're just random prompts. You don't know what they are. And so Reddit and all show up for those. Often they could be very B2C heavy.
No, a lot of them are B2C heavy. I think we know what company is pushing a lot of these profound of these research studies. I mean, there's a couple other companies that are pushing these research studies too, but yeah, if you look at the brands that they're talking about, a lot of them are like Postmates or Uber or Tesla, and they're
Yeah.
running these, like, they're doing research off of those brands, and of
Right.
course the cited sources are going to be skewed more towards like large consumer sites than it would be for a B2B company. And what we're seeing is if you're running searches around very niche topics that are related to different industries in the B2B setting, it's not
It's
these
mostly
large.
industry sites. Here, I'll tell you a
Yeah.
stat that I haven't even told you yet. So, me and someone else on our team, Jessica Lakritz, are working on this study. It's going to come out soon. But the early results are, from what we've seen across, I don't know, it was like dozens of topics across like 15 to 20 clients that we looked at in our tool tracker. 91% of the domains that were cited by these AI tools, three of them, ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI overviews, were like industry specific publications or sites. And it was like Reddit was like this tiny number.
And it makes sense if you just think about it logically. Why is that true? Because if it's running a search around, I don't know, transportation management systems, how many threads on Reddit are going to be around that? Or how many like PR publications have published something on that topic, or Forbes has done a story about that? It's
Right.
very few. It's going
Yeah.
to be these
Niche
industry
sites.
specific site. Yeah, it's going to be stuff, people that have deep knowledge and expertise on that topic who've written about that subject matter, where AI is going to pull information from, because Forbes and Inc. and I don't know, like Reddit are
Wikipedia.
probably not, yeah, they're not going to have the really detailed information on that topic. So why would it choose that as a source?
Yeah,
It just
versus
doesn't
what
even
you
make
said
sense.
is like mainstream consumer stuff. So like Tesla is used as an example in these like profound and all of those. Yeah, like if somebody's researching cars, Reddit is a place to be like even regular people before AI, there was this whole trend in the last 2 years where people were like, I just append sitereddit.com to all of my Google searches because I want to see what humans say. Like, yeah, sure. If you're looking for the best, like, I don't know, like tennis shoes for high distance running, like Reddit's probably a decent place to look. But like you said, if you're doing some like niche B2B thing, it's not that. So as a result, our recommendation for tier two of the pyramid is what we're calling citation outreach, which is if you are going to do this kind of digital PR or outreach, first figure out what the sources are that are being cited for the prompts that matter to you, then reach out to them. Don't do this broad brush thing where it's like we're just gonna like do some like Reddit outreach or whatever, because you need to know, is that actually one of your most common citations? So just to plug our own tool first, like Traqer, which we'll do a separate video looking at how that works. Traqer has analysis for a given topic where it'll say like here are the most common domains cited. A lot of AI visibility tools do that, but I'm just saying from a strategy perspective, that's what we should do. Like this topic is important to us to rank in AI search. Any prompt within that topic, something that's related to that. What sites seem to be coming up a lot? And if you're going to do outreach to them. So then if you do tier one and tier two of the pyramid, that's a really solid GEO strategy. And I'll tell you now, from talking to tons of clients and other companies that are not even our clients or not our clients yet, if you did those two, you would be ahead of 99.999% of companies doing GEO right now. The vast majority are just like have no idea what they're doing. If you have solid content on your site that's going after bottom of funnel topics, we haven't even talked about that yet. And then number two, you then do citation outreach to say, hey, can we get mentions in yours? But the people and the domains and the companies you're reaching out to are ones that you know are being cited by LLMs for the topics you care about, not just random sites that you see on LinkedIn. Then you're ahead of the game by a long shot. It's worth mentioning before I go to the last tier of the pyramid of the content tweaks. It's worth mentioning something that we, I think, have mentioned in a previous episode about AI search changing, that the topics that matter in a GEO strategy, in GEO in general, in AI search, are bottom of funnel. Because, and you wrote about this, top of funnel, those conversations don't send traffic to your site anymore when they happen in LLMs, as an example.
Or often mention your brand. It's not even just sending traffic to your site, but if you ask ChatGPT a question, there's no incentive for the LLM to mention a brand. So if you
Right.
ask, what is content marketing, or how do I develop a content marketing strategy, it's not going to be that, I don't think, at least
No, it's
from.
not going to be like, talk to Grow and Convert.
Yeah, exactly. Grow and Convert has a great content marketing strategy. No, it's just going to pull a lot of different strategy, like the most common strategy from the web, and rehash that back to you.
Yeah.
And even there, I mean, this is a separate aside. You're probably not going to get the best information from that because, again, it's just generalizing a lot of information online. It's not going to the newest content strategy or some company that has a unique way of doing it unless you specifically ask for, okay, this is general. Can you give me more specific types for my business? Or can you show me case studies of people who've done it for like me? Then you might get a Grow and Convert case study popping up because there's a different approach with actual numbers of a business like them.
If we sort of put the two things we said together, look, SEO is your way to influence LLMs because they're using search to supplement their training data. And then what we just said of, and by the way, it's only the bottom of funnel topics. By bottom of funnel, we mean prompts, topics, and discussions with LLMs where the user is kind of asking for products or services and recommendations. So unlike what is content marketing or help me ChatGPT build a content marketing strategy, it would be I'm looking for a content agency. That's bottom. The second one is bottom of funnel. If you put that together, what that means is you should have an SEO strategy of bottom of funnel keywords, which to pat our own back, we do for clients, FYI. Like you should have that because then you're like, okay, all these things that people would Google when they're looking for a product, service, business like ours, you're showing up in SEO and then the LLMs are seeing you there as well when they're searching.
One more thing on that, actually, before we move on, is the specificity aspect. So a lot of people might question, okay, so content strategy doesn't change at all from SEO to AI. No, there are slight nuances and differences. One being you need to be way more specific in how you write because if you think about how people search in LLMs, they're self-identifying. I'm a marketer that works at this company. I'm looking for this kind of solution. Do you have examples of someone who's done it like me? If you don't have those case studies on your site, or if you don't have those examples, or in those examples that you do share publicly, you don't go into detail, such as listing the title of the person that you help, listing the exact use case. All those details now matter so much more. And so if you don't have content on your site like that, that is going to be important for you to produce. Even within the bottom of the funnel content, you might have to go into a lot more detail than you did before. And a lot of people just generalized, like they took templates from looking at the top 10 results and looked at the most common H2s and then just kind of copied those. But people might be looking for way more detailed answers and questions around that topic as well that need to be included in these pieces. And so that is kind of how we're thinking content strategy changes, where you might need to have a lot more answers to common questions around this topic in your bottom of the funnel pieces. You might have to have a lot more examples, a lot more case studies showing how whatever you're claiming in those pieces is proven true, because again, this is how people are going to search for information a little bit differently than Google. Before, they would just type in a keyword. This is a longer question that is going into ChatGPT with a lot more information surrounding it. And so if you don't have that information in your content, it's not going to be surfaced when people search for it.
Perfect. Last tier of the pyramid, content tweaks or on-site tactics. So like we mentioned at the beginning, this is fundamentally different than the other two in that it's not meant to help expose your brand to the LLMs, because it's talking about changes on the site. So the LLM has to already make it on your site. It's a way for the LLMs to better digest your content when they are crawling your site. Now, if it's true, and if one of those tactics does help, it would help your GEO. So it's included in here. But what we're saying here is, our recommendation here is, if you're not surfaced, like if you don't show up anywhere when the LLM is like, okay, the user asked me about this, let's figure this out. You're not in their training data. You're not in Google search. You're not, whether that be your content itself is not there, or you're not mentioned in the other articles it finds when it's searching. Then like, what are you doing? Adding some key takeaways to help it digest that, right? So you need to do that first. Now, when you do this, be very careful about hype and hearsay. So we are slowly testing a few of these. Our internal tests agree with some other people on the internet that have said that LLMs.txt, for example, which is one of these ideas, doesn't really work. As a background, if people are listening are like, what is LLMs.txt? It was this idea proposed by this particular developer. I forget the guy's name. He said, it would be nice if we had some standard to help LLM bots, index our site the same way we have robots.txt for Google. We should have LLMs.txt for this. And so he proposed that, and a bunch of people caught on and was like, great idea. And then people just started like adding that to their site. And there's never been confirmation. There's also not been like denial, but there's never been confirmation by the major LLMs and companies that they actually look for or use this. And some internal tests some folks on our team have done have suggested that it actually seems to be making no difference. So that's one. But there could be others of those. And one thing that makes me a little bit skeptical of those, I'll go on record saying, is I think it's kind of funny how what makes LLMs world-changing technology, it's in the acronym, large language model, is this technology's ability to understand natural language the way humans understand it. And yet we're saying that what you need to do is to handhold these LLMs and put like bullet point summaries of key takeaways. Why? Because it can't read your blog post that's written in English? So I think it's funny how there's marketers on LinkedIn being like, I don't even check my email anymore. I just have the LLM summarize this and I do all of this stuff and all of this is automated by Gen AI and I have this whole Gen AI automation to like produce content. And then they're like, but you need to put like these bullet point summaries because AI can't like understand language. Like what's the logic? So we're going to slowly like run some tests and decide like, is there a difference if you add key takeaways versus not? It's kind of hard to really have a pure A/B test there and know whether it's like causal. If you see an increase, was it because of that? Or like, because like your rankings and LLM visibility change all the time. That's our current view of it, is that in terms of priority, this is called prioritized GEO. Your first priority should be to be mentioned every time this topic comes up. And then, yeah, if you want to add some, I don't see any downside. If you want to add like key
I think
takeaway
it's
bullet.
very analogous to the SEO side. There are agencies or people in house who just recommend doing constant technical updates to your site when you don't even really rank for stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, or like you don't even have pages on your site that have the potential to rank for certain keywords, and they'll just say,
Do a technical audit.
yeah, we need to do an audit, we need to do an audit, or we need to like, yeah, do some things around this keyword. It's like if you don't have a page that is focused around ranking for that keyword, no matter how many technical fixes or adding schema to your site or whatever the technical fix may be, it's not really going to help you rank for that. Again, it all starts with having a page on your site that's designed to rank for that. And then maybe if you're not ranking for that, then yes, there's some technical things that you can do to help improve that. But it all starts with having that right content. And it's like all of this AI stuff is really analogous to SEO. No, it's not the same. We're not claiming it's exactly the same, but it's very analogous. So if you don't have a page on your site, step one in the pyramid, if you don't have the content, you're probably not going to have a chance to rank for it. Then step two, brand mentions. Okay, very similar to link building. If there's not other people mentioning that this is an important page on your site in SEO, in AI, it's if there's not other people mentioning your brand around this topic, probably not going to show up as much. And then last thing is the top of the pyramid, just you want to make sure you have all the technical stuff in order. So yeah, if you don't have schema and like little things like that, yes, that can help improve it, but the technical side is not going to make or break your AI content strategy. And all these little hacks and things that people are sharing, it's not going to get you from 0 to 100. You need to start with the content side first.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. You can also get the audio-only versions of these shows wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us at growandconvert.com/newsletter for any articles and updates for when these videos come out.